Hi, this is Dr. Micol Neely, and thanks for listening to our show. We are here to talk a little bit about mindset, movement, and muscle, and maybe a few other little fun things along the way. Welcome back. Thanks for coming and tuning in. And I've got my mom here interviewing me today. So learn a little bit about me with my mama in the room. Okay, Mom, I'm an open book.
You are?
I promise to tell the truth because I don't want to get in trouble. So
well,
question away.
You've always been a very, very determined personality. I wouldn't say at all difficult, but you always knew what you wanted.
Oh, yeah.
And starting out, you're a runner. You are a runner now, but you were a runner early.
Yeah.
I always did a lot of exercise and myself and whatnot. And so you kind of were on the sidelines of that.
Yeah. You were a great role model.
But I remember you had an opportunity to run in a local 1 mile race.
Yes.
And you were 8. And we entered you in the 8, 9, and 10-year-olds because we had noticed when you were probably even preschool, like 4 or so, you would get out and run. We would ride our bikes, and you were on the carrier on the back.
But I didn't want to be on the carrier.
No, you didn't want to be on the carrier. You wanted to run. Just let me down and run. And I'm thinking, oh, my little girl, she's going to fall. She's going to skin her knee. She's going to get hurt. And we kind of, okay, no, she was going to run. And we kind of went up over this hill, over the railroad tracks. And sure enough, you fell. And I'm thinking, okay, just get in. Just get in. And no, she got up and she had to go. Had to go again. So we entered her in this race when she was 8-year-olds. And I think you got 3rd place running against 8, 9, and 10-year-olds. And there were several. I don't remember how many, but several.
I remember that race. Yeah.
And you got 3rd place. And we're thinking, oh my goodness. And that's kind of how it all began as far as your...
But I had to run on my time. It had to be my decision, I remember.
Yeah.
Because you would push me to run and be like, not today.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, it had... So then you started running in junior high.
Yeah.
In track and excelled.
Yeah.
And it kind of went from there through high school. I think you still hold some...
I still have some records in high school, I think. Unless they got broke this year.
I don't know. I think you may have. You may have.
But you started running about that time too, because you were like, well, if my daughter can run, I can run.
I thought, I always was active and I always did aerobics classes and walker. And I'm thinking, how does she do that? And I started doing it and running. And once I started, I was walking just never was enough. I just never felt, I didn't get a good enough exercise. I only walked. I didn't run.
Yeah.
But you've always run. Another thing.
It was very stimulating for my brain. So it was a peaceful place. It was a place where I didn't feel like I had a lot of responsibility. I could just go. And then I get that runner's high. So once you get going afterwards, I just felt so great. But then it's like, well, now what else can I do? How much faster can I go? And I've got the competitive spirit. So, you got to crush that. And it's not always even competing against someone else. It's competing against your own time. Like, how much quicker can I do that mile?
Right.
So it became a little addiction there.
It did. Another thing I remember about you is all of the high school projects that we did together.
Goodness.
Oh, and I would say probably the majority of the biggest projects all had to do with science.
Yeah.
Biology or some type of science field.
Yeah. We made that cell out of candy. That was delicious.
Oh my goodness. And a lot of
And I made the pillow heart that I did
that I just threw away. this summer
Yeah.
after all of
You
those
kept
years.
things way too much.
And the lungs, the models of all the stuff we did.
I was very blessed to have some incredible support. But we had some fun projects, but I wonder if you had as much fun as I did.
You know, I did, because I'm probably just as determined to do a top-notch job as you did.
Oh,
And
where did I learn it
you always had to get the best in class. And what you did, you excelled. I think your instructors were probably, I was kind of impressed with our projects.
Oh yeah, you owned them. That's why you kept it, isn't it?
I had to own them too. But how much of those projects influenced you in you going into the medical field?
Well, I did love science. But really, my first memory of thinking that I was going into medicine was sitting in church. We had those pediatricians that had been in Africa that came and they did a big presentation. And by the end of the presentation, I was almost in tears. I think I was 4 or 5 years old. And I was like, told Dad, I remember walking up to him and said, I'm going to school, I'm going to be a doctor, and I'm going to Africa, and I'm saving those children. And he was like, yeah. But really, it kicked in my stubbornness. And then I just had this thought, I'm going to be a doctor. And so since then, it was a passion and a drive, but I really loved science. I had a really good teacher in high school who happened to be my track coach.
Yeah.
I won't say he was the best coach, but he was an amazing teacher and leader and mentor. I remember going into a class, we'd learn, and I would limp because remember how I hurt the hip and the shin splints I had? Mm. And so the answer was ibuprofen, ice, wrap, and run. And of course, I wasn't going to run with the girls. I was running with the boys because if they could do 5 miles, I could do 6. Mm-hmm. And so as a coach, he probably should have let me heal. But instead, he just pushed me to go. And it was the same in science class. He would push me to excel. And a lot of kids didn't love him because he was strict and he was hard. But I learned more in my high school science than I learned in college.
Well, your personalities gelled too.
Yeah.
And I think, God just used him to start you in this whole journey.
Yeah.
You also had a girl that was an upperclassman, and you both entered into the science fair one year. I think she really challenged you too that year.
Yeah. And this was back in the 90s, and I did it on lasers.
Oh,
we had a friend who was an ophthalmologist, and we actually went to the local butcher and got cow eyeballs.
Right, we did.
And my science project was on the effects of the different lasers on it and different eye colors.
And that optometrist helped you.
Yeah.
Use his laser. You actually lasered on those cow eyeballs.
I lasered on cow eyeballs and on construction paper. Remember?
That's right.
It was a pretty incredible science project for the time, because what other doctor is going to let a 15-year-old use their laser back then? That was new technology.
You were always very driven.
Yeah.
So you actually took a lot of college courses your senior year in high school.
Yeah.
So when you graduated from high school, you had quite a few hours.
Thank God, because college was expensive.
And so you got your college degree then 3 years after high school.
Yeah. Yeah.
You still at that point weren't 100% sure.
I did a lot of back and forth. Like those 3 years, I think I had lived with such motivation and determination and drive that I kind of burned out in high school, I think, for a little bit. And so I was this newfound freedom of college, and I had an amazing group of friends. There were about 20 of us that did so much together through my 3 years of college, and they were from probably 20 different countries represented. And I learned and saw the world. So college wasn't so much that determination and push towards med school as it was me really learning about life and people and how important some of that support and relationships were. And I'm sure I made plenty of bad decisions that I am not telling you about.
Well, I'm sure that's true.
But I think it really built on that foundation. I had the love of you and Dad and my family growing up, but then I had who I was. But it delayed getting into my MD.
Yeah, you took several, I would say not bunny trails, but different experiences that you learned from them.
Yeah.
But you didn't go straight into that.
I spent a year in Australia and got to see a lot of life there. I had a failed marriage that really, as painful as it was, lets me relate to people in a way I would have never understood, because you were a really good role model. And I had a really good family growing up, and I didn't understand that pain of a broken relationship until then. So I went into emergency medicine, and some of those mistakes, some of those painful experiences that I chose as my bunny trails actually made me a better doctor, because I could relate, I could understand more than if I hadn't have gone through that.
Let's back up a little bit. You had some other experiences before that point. High school, you got your CNA and CMA.
I did. I was like a sophomore in high school, and I got my CNA. And I was taking a class at the college and taking care of one of my professors' dad in the Alzheimer's unit. Very interesting experience. I was very naive, but when you start taking care of elderly with Alzheimer's, it's scary. Maybe motivated me to stay healthy even more, but also continued that path to medicine. I loved helping people.
And that was in high school. You had that experience.
And then in the ER, I was the ER tech. I'll never forget. I'd do school Monday through Friday, and I worked 2 12-hour shifts, Saturday, Sunday, in little small town Arkansas.
That was in college. That's right. I forgot about that.
I'll never forget, because one of the ER docs, who was my favorite, I learned from so much, but he was overweight and he stopped to smoke about every hour. And I was like, I don't think as a doctor you're supposed to live your life that way. Didn't he go to school and learn?
So, and at that time you were in school, the college that you went to, the university, you were able to work on actual, I wouldn't say mannequins, or what do you call them? Cadavers.
Yeah.
Which was a little more unusual for the university status at that point.
Yeah, undergrad didn't usually have actual cadavers, but we did. Mm-hmm. And I think that the professors got together as a joke and said, let's put this cadaver lab right before lunch. And it was about 15 years before I could really eat meat well again.
Yeah. It was, I mean, you know, God just put you in a lot of great experiences. But then you also when you were in the St. Pete, you worked children's?
Yeah.
Were you in pediatrics?
I was in Florida, and I worked at the pediatric hospital. And I worked for an ophthalmologist as a surgery scrub.
That's right.
And I was a fitness instructor at the spa there. So I would teach like spin class and exercise. I worked at the hospital, and I would do surgery tech.
So then you got your physician assistant before you actually went on and completed your medical.
I did. So when I moved back from Australia, didn't quite know what to do, and I knew marriage would not last through med school. I ended up going and getting my master's in medical science. But always felt like there was just something missing. So I had some really neat opportunities working as a PA and loved what I did. But while I was working full-time as a PA, I went back and got my MD. And yeah, I mean, thankfully I didn't have children, because I don't know as a mom how I could have juggled working full-time, going to school, and everything that I was trying to take on. I do think my health suffered a bit.
I would agree. Yeah.
I was stressed. It was hard. But I did it. I finished finished my MD while I worked full time.
And you've gone on to get more degrees since then.
I'm a glutton for punishment.
Yes. And you've continued your running
I have.
and exercise.
And this is more recently. Like I've always exercised. Like you said, I saw you model that, living a healthy life, being active. And I think that's why, Mom, at 70, people still think you're 50 because you've modeled that exercise, that health, that how important movement is. And so I've taken that on and always stayed active. But yeah, right after I got my MD, I had my little boy and knew it was about time to get out of the ER. And then COVID hit. And so I had the opportunity to work at a field hospital in California. And it was really a special moment in my life because Katie, my adopted sister, I didn't know really well, but she came and was my nanny for a lot of the time where you or dad came in. And it was Kai and I and COVID. And I worked hard, but I had a lot of time with Kai on the beach that were special memories. I got to know my adopted sister. Like we're so close now. And she's like my son's favorite. And I think he's her favorite too.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
But during that time, we helped set up the IV infusions for monoclonal antibodies with COVID. And one of the doctors that I worked with did vitamin infusions concierge. And I absolutely fell in love with the concept of a more natural approach to medicine. And it was so hard seeing people like sick and dying in the ER. And those 12-hour shifts and night shifts with a little baby were hard. So I started forming this dream of my own practice and helping people to really live with energy and health. And so while I was working that field hospital in California, I went and got my MBA through Grand Canyon University. So there went my next degree and my next passion.
So as I have, of course, watched you grow up and watched how God just specifically orchestrated every phase of your life to where you are today. And I do believe that God had a great plan for you. And it was not only a journey to your accomplishes, medically and in wellness and health. Tell me about your spiritual journey and how that has all come about and how it's impacted where you are today.
Sure. I mean, I was raised that, you believe in God, and remember as a little girl, accepting that truth. But part of it was a belief just because my mom and dad did, because you said that's the right thing. And college, I questioned a lot, but it was still like, oh, this is the right thing to do. But I think it really became a question to me after my divorce. That was hard. I wondered, how could that happen? How could I go through abuse and pain with someone who was supposed to love me? And maybe God didn't care. And I rejected it. I fully rejected it for a little while. And I dove into reading. I read everything I could on all types of belief and religion. And I finally decided, okay, now I better read through the Bible again. And so, I mean, I'm summarizing this quick, but after about 2 years, I was working hard and I went to the doctor who owned the clinic I was at, and I said, I need a break and I've got to leave tomorrow or I quit. And the next day I was on a plane to Greece, and I stopped in Athens for one day and I went over to Crete, and I had this little room on this new resort across from Spinalonga, which was incredible because there's a whole nother story behind that of Pasteur Institute came and they did studies and they found the cure for leprosy there. And there was a whole love story written. So I read that book there and I relaxed. And then I took out my Bible and I said, you know what? I'm going to look at this with clear eyes. I'm not going to believe anything I've been taught, but I'm going to read it for me. And it became personal. It became a belief because I believed it and I know the power in it. And it's not perfect. It's not something that I always do right, but I know there's a power in my faith in God and my personal relationship. And I think that plays into my health tremendously. And we often are taught, or a lot of people are raised with faith or not. But when you believe that for yourself and you really know that power, it makes all the difference. And so, yeah, I've done some hard things. There's some I'm still like figuring out. But I do know that power. And that's kind of my story of how I found it for myself.
So it's a faith-based power, but faith-based in what?
And my belief in Christ as my savior. And gets me through each day because there's days that are really hard. And being a single mom, I'm raising a boy that I want him to have every opportunity. But yet I got to work and I've got to work hard. And I opened my own business. And let me tell you, if you had told me 5 years ago how hard it was, I'm not sure I would have done it.
Right.
But
that's how you always do things.
Oh, it's always how I do things. I learned the hard way best.
Yes.
And then through that, getting back into my running, and I ran the 100 miles this year. And I think that is really what culminated in a passion and a calm in me. I've learned that even when there's chaos, even when I'm doubting whether I'm a good mom or a good businesswoman, that I am loved by my family. I have friends and I have a strong faith to lean on. And
that's key.
That's really key.
Yeah.
So thank you for instilling that in me. And
I would not have it any other way.
I didn't always do things right. You gave me a foundation that I will always be thankful for.
And we'll continue to run marathons together. Well, I had to quit because of my knees, but
well, we're working on that.
Our first marathon, the races that we actually ran in marathons were together. In Columbus.
We did Columbus, Nebraska. Yeah. Still the fastest one.
I know. I had the record for 50-year-olds.
Yeah.
But that's been broken now.
Well,
yeah.
On our next episode, we'll talk about your little health journey and how we're going to fix those knees, and you can run the next marathon with me again.
Yes. Thank you.
Thanks, Mama.